Hello there, fellow intellectuals and scholars. Welcome to another episode of 390. My name is Jeremiah Preston Buckthorn. You may know me from my literary works, such as The ABCs of Hunting Sport, or maybe my more recent bestseller, Americans and Why God Loves Them. Today I will be your humble host as Ronnie X, lead singer of 390, discusses with us his definition of what it means to be punk. During the course of this episode, I will be here to verify each claim with expert opinions. I've also taken the liberty to list several links below so that you may follow up yourself on this fascinating subject. Take it away, Ron.
What is punk? Now, let me make a disclaimer here. When I talk about what is punk, I am not talking about the genre, the music vibe of punk. I think most people would agree that what we identify as punk, the music punk, is pretty much what the Ramones left us, that particular vibe, generally speaking. Not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, what does it mean to be punk? Now, I've done some research on this, and I've asked a lot of people this question. And I think what kind of percolates to the surface are three main characteristics that I think can be associated with punk. It's what I call the punk trinity. Those are anti-authority, anti-establishment, and that be true to yourself, do-it-yourself ethic of punk, say what you want. These, to me, are the three core principles of punk. Now, I know I'm going to get some disagreement on this, and that's fine, but I don't think you can take away those three characteristics. You might want to add something to it, but these are core principles that I think you can hear most punkers talk about since the beginning to the present. So let me break this down. Let me talk about these three principles, philosophies, whatever you want to call it, of punk. The first one, anti-authority. Now, I divide this into two categories. It's the anti-corporate and the anti-government. Now, this was a big theme of early punkers and certainly into the 90s. Definitely the anti-corporate. I mean, bands wrote a lot of songs about this, Pennywise and Bad Religion. Okay, very anti-corporate bands.
AntiCorporate. Jella Biafra, one of punk's most popular critics of corporations, stated, quote, "Punk definitely had a major influence in the eruption of militant anti-corporate activism."
Then you also have the other side, the anti-government, the anti-authoritarian government part of it. And I think this you can trace all the way back to the beginnings of punk with the anarchistic movement. Definitely a reaction to
Who's my little snooky wookie?
To government.
You're my little snooky wookie. Yes. Now let's talk about the Republican Party. Okay. Anti-government. You can't get more anti-government than the Sex Pistols. As Sex Pistols illustrated in songs like God Save the Queen and I Am an Anarchist. Or what about The Clash? Songs like Know Your Rights, Radio Clash, and Rock the Casbah. All these songs were about government abuses and free speech.
So that's the first part of the Trinity. The second part I would call the anti-establishment. So what does it mean to be anti-establishment? This is the view or belief in which one stands in opposition to the conventional social, political, and economic principles of a society. In other words, you are fighting the man. You are pushing back against his views and his values because you don't agree with them. Now, this could be tough for punkers. If you're a punker that is anti-establishment, but you want to replace your values with the previous values, then you run the risk of being establishment yourself. But if you are just trying to tell the establishment, hey, leave me alone, you can have your values, I got mine, we can just get along, that's entirely different. And that's how I like to perceive this part of being anti-establishment.
A man at war is like a dewdrop hanging on a rose, struggling to hold on to what is most dear. Anti-establishment. Punk from its inception has always been fighting the system, pushing back against the cultural norms of its time. Punk is rebellious. As Casey Royo from DI once said, quote, "Punk has always challenged what is not fair."
And then the last part is the do-it-yourself, be true to yourself, say what you want part of punk. This is the kind of individualistic part of punk. Now, I think if you had to choose just one of these three core principles, this would probably be the one that I think most people identify with. However, I don't think punk would have ever propelled itself into, to the mainstream, if you will, if it wasn't for these other two principles, the anti-establishment, the anti-authoritarian parts of punk. This was kind of gave it the macro push to make punk relevant in the 80s and 90s.
Damn tourist hikers on my property again. DIY/be true to yourself. Joey Ramone in an interview once said, "We do what we want to do. We call the shots. You want to make it on your own terms, not into compromise."
So that's it. That's my definition of punk. Anti-authority, anti-establishment, and that be true to yourself, individualistic part of punk. I think those are the core principles. I don't think you can really move outside of those and be really true to punk. Just let me know what you think. Comment on the section below, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of 390. Don't forget to tune in to the links below to follow up more on this fascinating subject. Again, I am your humble host, Jeremiah Preston Buckthorn. Signing out. Keep it punky.
We need a new revolution! A new revolution! We need a new revolution! A new revolution! We need a new revolution! A new revolution! And we need it now!
And that's what I have to say about punk rock. No? Oh. No. Punk rock.